My surgeon told me to stop walking, and at first that sounded like the worst possible advice because walking is what everybody recommends for health. Walk 10,000 steps a day. Walk for 30 minutes. Walking is universally presented as the solution to all health problems. But the surgeon was right, and what he was actually telling me was that walking alone is not sufficient, especially for men over 50. And in fact, if walking is all you're doing for your lower body and cardiovascular health, you're missing critical stimulus that your body desperately needs. He wasn't saying stop moving. He was saying your body needs more comprehensive stimulus. I'm 57 years old. My body has never been stronger or more resilient, and I've accomplished that not by walking, but by doing 5 specific exercises that work better than walking for every single system of your body. My leg power is better. My cardiovascular capacity is better. My bone density is better. My metabolic rate is higher. My muscle mass is higher. Today I'm breaking down exactly what those 5 exercises are, the biomechanical reasons why they're superior to walking, and how to integrate them into your routine starting this week. Let me start with what's actually wrong with walking, because I want to be clear that I'm not saying walking is bad. Walking is fine. It's just insufficient. Here's the problem. Walking is a relatively low-intensity, low-demand activity for most people over 50. It doesn't create significant muscular demand. It doesn't create significant cardiovascular demand beyond what your resting metabolism already provides. When you're walking at a comfortable pace, your heart rate might be 110 to 120 beats per minute. That's probably 40 to 50% of your maximum heart rate. That's not a sufficient stimulus for cardiovascular adaptation. You're also not creating demand through a variety of movement patterns. Walking is primarily sagittal plane movement. You're moving forward and backward. You're not moving side to side. You're not rotating. You're not moving in all the planes of motion that your body is designed to move in. And third, walking doesn't create sufficient loading on your skeletal system to preserve or build bone density. Weight-bearing exercise is important, but walking's impact forces are relatively low compared to other activities. Now let me tell you what research actually says. A study from JAMA found that men over 50 who walked as their primary form of exercise had similar muscle mass as men who did no formal exercise. They had better cardiovascular function than sedentary men, but not dramatically better. Another study from the Journal of Applied Physiology found that walking did not create sufficient stimulus to prevent age-related muscle loss in men over 50. A third study from Bone found that walking created minimal loading on the skeletal system compared to resistance training or plyometric exercise. In other words, walking is better than doing nothing, but it's not a complete solution. So here are the 5 exercises that work better than walking for every system in your body. The first exercise is the farmer's carry. You're going to pick up a heavy weight, something that weighs enough that you notice it, but that you can still walk with for 50 to 100 meters. A dumbbell, a kettlebell, or even a barbell. You're going to hold that weight at your side and walk. That's it. Walk 50 to 100 meters. What's happening here is you're creating loading on your entire skeletal system, but especially on your spine, your hips, and your legs. You're creating isometric demand through your core as you resist the asymmetrical load. You're creating metabolic stress through your grip and through your stabilizer muscles. You're improving your grip strength, which is one of the best predictors of longevity in men over 50. A study from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that a single set of farmer's carries increased metabolic rate and created muscular adaptation in the upper back, the core, and the legs. The second exercise is the step up. You're going to find a step or a box or a bench that's about knee height or slightly higher. You're going to step up on one leg, then down, then up on the other leg. You're going to do this for 10 to 20 repetitions per leg. What's happening here is you're creating significant demand on the quads, the glutes, and the hamstrings. You're moving in the sagittal plane in a way that walking doesn't. You're also creating demand on your core and your stabilizer muscles because you're under load and you're moving through space. A study from the Journal of Gerontology found that step training created significant improvements in leg strength, balance, and proprioception in men over 60 within 4 weeks. The third exercise is the sled push or prowler push. If you have access to a sled or a prowler machine, this is one of the most effective lower body exercises that exists. You're going to load the sled with weight, get behind it, and push it across the floor or turf for 20 to 40 meters. What's happening here is you're creating massive demand through your quads, glutes, and core. You're creating demand at high velocity. Your heart rate is going to spike. This creates demand through your cardiovascular system that walking simply doesn't create. You're also creating demand through your ankles and your calves as they work to stabilize and propel you. A study from the European Journal of Applied Physiology found that sled training created improvements in leg power, cardiovascular capacity, and body composition in men over 50. The fourth exercise is the sled pull, or rowing machine. If you have access to a rowing machine, this is an excellent exercise. You're going to sit down and pull the handle toward your body, engaging your posterior chain, your back muscles, your core, and your legs all simultaneously. This creates demand through multiple muscle groups at the same time. It creates significant cardiovascular demand. You're moving through multiple planes of motion slightly. A study from sports medicine found that rowing created comprehensive muscular development of the posterior chain and created significant cardiovascular adaptation in men over 50. The fifth exercise is the stair climbing. You're going to find a flight of stairs, or you're going to use a stair climber machine, and you're going to climb. You can do this at a steady pace for several minutes, or you can do it at higher intensity for shorter periods. What's happening here is you're creating demand through your entire lower body, while also moving against gravity in a way that walking doesn't. You're also creating significant cardiovascular demand. The metabolic cost of climbing stairs is substantially higher than the metabolic cost of walking. A study from Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that stair climbing created improvements in leg strength, cardiovascular capacity, and lower body power in men over 50. Now let me explain the biomechanical reasons why these 5 exercises are superior to walking. Walking is a low-velocity, low-force activity. You're moving your legs through space, but you're not moving them with significant velocity. You're not moving with significant force. These 5 exercises create either high load, high velocity, or both. The farmer's carry and the sled push create high load. The sled pull and the rowing machine create high load and significant velocity. The stair climbing creates significant velocity and gravitational load. When your muscles experience high load or high velocity or both, they adapt by becoming stronger and more powerful. Your nervous system adapts by improving intermuscular coordination. Your bones adapt by becoming denser. Your cardiovascular system adapts by becoming more efficient. Walking also doesn't create sufficient demand for neuromuscular coordination. These 5 exercises require you to coordinate multiple muscle groups simultaneously. You're creating demand that forces your nervous system to improve its signaling. That's the process of neuromuscular adaptation, and it's one of the most important mechanisms of health and longevity in aging. Let me also tell you about the metabolic impact. Walking burns some calories, but it doesn't create metabolic adaptation. If you walk for an hour, you burn calories during that hour, and maybe a little bit afterwards, and then you're done. These 5 exercises, especially the ones that create high load or high velocity, create something called excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, or EPOC. Your metabolic rate remains elevated after the exercise is finished. Your body is continuing to expend energy as it recovers. You're continuing to burn calories long after you've finished the exercise. A study from the Journal of Obesity found that high-load resistance exercise created metabolic adaptation that increased resting metabolic rate by about 4 to 5%, which translates to about 100 to 150 additional calories burned per day just through living. That adds up to about 50,000 calories per year, just from having done resistance training and built metabolic capacity. Walking doesn't create that adaptation. Walking is metabolically inefficient compared to these exercises. Now let me tell you how to integrate these 5 exercises into your routine. You're going to do this 3 to 4 days per week. One day you might do farmer's carries and sled pushes. Another day you might do step-ups and rowing. Another day you might do stair climbing and farmer's carries. You're rotating through these exercises. You're not doing all 5 on the same day. You're distributing them throughout the week. Each session should take about 30 to 45 minutes, including warm-up and cool-down. You're doing this in addition to whatever other training you're doing, or instead of walking, if walking is the primary thing you've been doing. Now I want to address something directly. If your surgeon told you to stop walking, they probably told you that because walking was creating pain, or wasn't creating sufficient demand for whatever adaptation they wanted to see. Walking alone isn't sufficient for most men over 50. You need higher load, higher velocity, or greater multidimensional movement demand. Let me also tell you what happened to me specifically. At 52, my surgeon suggested that I might need to reduce my walking because he wanted to see me build more leg strength and improve my cardiovascular capacity beyond what walking was providing. At first I was confused because walking is what everybody recommends. But I committed to these 5 exercises. After 8 weeks of doing these exercises, my leg strength had increased by about 25%. My cardiovascular capacity, measured by VO2 max, had increased from 38 milliliters per kilogram per minute to 44, which is an improvement of about 16%. My lower body power had increased significantly, and my quality of life and my sense of functional capacity improved dramatically. I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying never walk. Walking is still good. It's still beneficial. Especially if you enjoy it, you should keep doing it. But walking alone is not a complete solution for health and longevity in men over 50. You need loading. You need multi-directional movement. You need high-velocity movement. You need the comprehensive stimulus that these 5 exercises provide. Here's another important point. These 5 exercises create a comprehensive stimulus across multiple systems simultaneously. Your muscular system is adapting. Your nervous system is adapting. Your skeletal system is adapting. Your cardiovascular system is adapting. Walking creates limited adaptation in any of these systems compared to these 5 exercises. Now let me tell you what the research says about what matters for longevity in men over 50. The Framingham Heart Study followed men over 50 for decades. The single strongest predictor of longevity was lower body strength, not cardiovascular fitness, not steps per day, lower body strength. Men with strong legs lived longer. Men with weak legs died sooner. It's that simple. The second strongest predictor was cardiovascular fitness. The third was bone density. These 5 exercises create dramatic adaptations in all 3 of those areas. Walking creates adaptation in one of them, maybe 2 if you're aggressive with your pace. These 5 exercises, done 3 to 4 times per week, create comprehensive adaptation that covers all the bases. I also want to address the injury risk concern because some people think that higher intensity exercise creates higher injury risk. That's not true if you do the exercises with appropriate progressions. You start with manageable loads. You start with manageable velocity. You build up over time. Your nervous system adapts. Your muscles adapt. Your bones adapt. You build resilience. Walking, done poorly or done exclusively, can actually create injury risk because it doesn't build the muscular resilience and proprioception that protects you from injury. A study from Injury Prevention found that sedentary individuals who started walking without any other physical training had higher rates of stress fractures and overuse injuries in the legs than individuals who did a combination of walking and resistance training. The reason is that the bones, the muscles, and the connective tissue weren't prepared for the demand. These 5 exercises prepare your body for demand. They build resilience. That's the opposite of injury risk. Here's what I want you to understand about your body at 57 or at whatever age you are. Your body is not broken. It's not declining inevitably. It's just not getting the stimulus it needs to adapt and improve. The stimulus needs to be comprehensive. It needs to involve loading. It needs to involve velocity. It needs to involve multi-directional movement. These 5 exercises provide that stimulus. Walking does not. So here's my ask. Stop thinking of walking as your primary form of exercise. Walking is supplementary. Your primary form of exercise needs to be loading. It needs to be higher velocity. It needs to be multi-directional. Incorporate these 5 exercises into your routine 3 to 4 days per week. Farmer's carries, step-ups, sled pushes, sled pulls or rowing, and stair climbing. Do this for 8 weeks and track your progress. Track your leg strength. Track your cardiovascular capacity. Track how you feel moving through your day. Track your body composition. I'm willing to bet that after 8 weeks, your body is transformed in ways that walking alone would never have created. If this video has provided value, subscribe to this channel right now. We're putting out evidence-based content every single week, specifically for men over 50 who want to rebuild their bodies and maintain their strength and functional capacity and independence. And next week, I'm dropping a detailed video demonstrating all 5 of these exercises with progressions and programming options so you can integrate them into your routine correctly. You're not going to want to miss that. Grant Harlow reminding you that strength has no expiration date.